Hi, welcome. I really encourage you watching the previous video before watching this one because, in the previous video I go over the dead project that this project is trying to revive. It gives you a lot of context because you're probably not going to understand anything about what I'm going to talk about right now if you don't watch the previous video. So yeah, it's relatively short. It's like 10 or 15 minutes. Anyway, so today I'm just going to show you the current state of this project, which is very limited right now. There is not much, honestly. But anyway, I'm going to first talk not like that. I'm just going to talk about the user system I've been doing. So it's a local user profile, basically, so you can create as many local user profile that you want and select them. It's not super important right now, but it's more for the future. So as you know, if you watched the previous video, a big focus on this project is to allow the players to design their custom elements to place in the world. For example, they can design their own blocks, their own blueprints of blocks. So anyway, the user profiles are a way to split this data. If, for example, you want it to have different profile for you, or if you have multiple people playing on the same computer or whatever. It's not super important. I won't dive too much into it. But anyway, user can create their own world that they can share with others or not, and blah blah blah, can join their own world or the world from other. Anyway, it's not super important. I'm not going to talk about this anymore. But yeah, now let's talk about chunk generation, because if you know nothing about blocky, Minecrafty kind of games, you might not understand what's the command approach. You could approach this in many different ways, but usually what we do is that instead of creating every single block in the game, which would be way too costly, instead of creating them one by one, we pack them in bigger groups. So each part of the wall, it's split into chunks. So it's maybe hard to see right now, but these cubes represent one chunk each, and one chunk, in this case, it's 62 by 62 by 62 blocks. And so this way, by dividing the work into chunks, it's much easier to manage and to parallelize. So we can generate these chunks in the background instead of having to deal with the whole map at once, which would be impossible, especially if you have an infinite map, obviously. Anyway, so this is what we are seeing right now, the chunks. And by the way, the camera is very fast. You might not realize the scale of this, but this is like a giant map. This is like a very big map that we're looking right now. There is nothing like these are just like debug boxes to see the representation of the chunks. But I have it's the max speed times 2. This is like a very big map. You might not get the scale because it's moving so fast, but it's an extremely big map. And right now, if you see, this is what I've implemented. So right now I've implemented some dummy timers, so I can kind of see how long it will take to generate. Right now, because there is no generation going on, it could be instant. But right now I've put some basic delays based on my previous projects, so I can really kind of see if it was actually generating something. So as you can see, it's super fast for the scale of the map. It's extremely fast to generate and to update. So I'm quite happy with that. And as you can see, again, no player is ever going to to move that fast. Right now, it will be like a rocket kind of speed. So it's updating super fast. Anyway, so that's really one thing. And so what I'm doing is I'm not just hard coding one player is in the map, I'm going to generate the chunk around it. No, this is the Activator component that I created. So it's an actor component that we can place on any actor, not just player pawns. And so with this component, you can just tell a map that something needs to be generated. So this is like just a very long actor mesh with 2 activators. So I have put an activator component on one side and an activator component on the other side. And these will be linked to the map and tell the map to generate a certain amount of chunks around them. So it's not tied to players or pawns or whatever. Like you could have any actor generate chunks around them. And when I say generate chunks, it's just generating chunks. It doesn't mean that it's going to draw a visual for, like, it's not going to draw the mesh chunk. So only the player, the local player, will draw the visuals, but you could have any element in the map loading chunks while the player is somewhere. So it's a very flexible system. So for example, in this one, I have a chunk radius of 4, so it means that it's going to generate 4 chunks, a radius of 4 chunks around it, and the other one is the same. So I have this very long actor, so you can see the effect. So if I drop it in the game, now if I show you, so I'm just moving it on the side so you can see. So the blue ones are from the player. So the blue ones are the chunks that are actually visible from the player. The white ones are generated but not visible. And as you can see, this actor is just generating stuff. Each of his activators are working, and it's working with the position of the component. So you could do whatever you wanted to. So yeah, so that's I think a really important step to do at the beginning, just so you can have flexible loading of chunks whenever you want, and then the player itself has its own activator. You could have multiple activators on the same actor, and as you can see, it's very flexible. And yeah, so that's it for it. Now I'm going to switch to a different debug mode to show you LODs. Yeah, so I just changed the debug mode, so now we have more colors, more pretty colors. So it's the same thing as before, it's just my player activator. And so what do these colors mean? It's for the level of detail, so the LODs. When I say LODs, I'm not just talking about... right now we don't have any mesh, like it's just debug boxes, obviously. But when I say level of detail, I'm not only talking about the meshes that we're going to see in the game, but also the generation. So because one of my goals is to have like absolutely giant maps, I want the biggest map ever made. So no, not really, but so it means that we need to be super efficient because we don't want to have to wait hours for things to generate. We want this to be super fast. So obviously I can't just generate everything at the highest level. I'm not talking about the mesh. I'm just talking about generating like the blocks, like what kind of block should I see? What, running a lot of noises to see if a block should be empty or full, what kind of materials it should have. So this takes a lot of time, and you can really save a lot of time by having less blocks to generate. So what we're seeing right now is the LOD. So the blue ones are LOD 0, which means the highest level of LOD. It's like things that are very close to the player, which the player can interact with. And then as we go to the red, from green to red, we get LOD 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so these red LODs are like super low. It would be like, I think 8 by 8 blocks, whereas the like I'm talking about 8 by 8 blocks in X and Y from the top, whereas the LOD 0 would be 62 by 62. So yeah, it's a lot more blocks to deal with when LOD 0. And so this updates obviously as the player moves, and as the things generate. And as you can see, like I'm going to go. The one in red are generating a lot faster. Yeah, as you can see. Again, it's like for now it's placeholder generation. I'm not actually generating anything, but I've put some timers like platform sleep in the background threads to simulation based on the values I had in my previous project. So it's roughly an estimate of how it would look like. How it would look like in the actual game. Where am I? I think I did something wrong. Yeah, sorry. I guess it's a good opportunity to show. I mean, right now there is no Z generation, but it's working with the Z depths as well. So yeah, so that's one thing. So yeah, LODs. Obviously, only the local player needs to worry about LODs. On the server, for example, the server only ever generate the LOD zero chunk. Like the server will never generate stuff that it doesn't need. So yeah, it's on the server you don't need as big of a range of chunks, whereas the player would just generate extra chunks just for visual feedback to make them believe that they are in the infinite world, which is kind of true. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about another thing. Okay, so I just showed you the LODs, and you know it's important to have LODs to have a fast enough generation, so it's responsive enough, so the player can just move around without having to wait for like higher generation stuff. But it still has a problem, and the problem is the number of draw calls, because it's nice, to have bigger maps, because now I have a level of detail, so I can generate bigger maps. But the drawback with that is that you need to deal with a lot of meshes, and basically each chunk is going to have one draw call. So because each chunk has a mesh, and assuming that you only use one material on the chunk, it's one draw call. So it's still a very big bottleneck for the GPU, because you have to deal with a lot of data. And even if the lowest level of detail is super fast to mesh, like it's just 8x8 blocks, as I was saying, even if it's fast to mesh, it's still one draw call. So what I've done is I've created a system called I call this merge chunk. So it's a different draw debug mode that I'm showing right now. So now the chunks are represented by these very low res spheres, and the boxes that we see are the actual meshes that are going to represent the chunks. So previously we had like one box per chunk, which was one mesh per chunk, but now these boxes represent all the chunks that have been merged together. And so as you can see on the upper left corner, instead of 390 meshes that we should have had before, now we only have 20, which is much better. And for the lowest level of detail chunk, it's going to be super fast to mesh anyway, so it's not an issue. And for the LOD0 chunks, I have a system. I can show you again. At the very start, you should see that there is no merge chunk at the center. Yeah, you have these chunks that are not merged. So the reason is that usually, I mean, again, right now it's super abstract, because I know what I'm talking about, because I've done it in the past. But you have to imagine that these chunks are like a lot of blocks. Like it's a lot of blocks to mesh. And so the highest level of detail chunks have slower meshes. It's slower to mesh them, obviously, because there is more data to mesh. So what the merging chunk system is doing is that it's not merging the LOD0 chunks yet. It's just waiting for a time. So basically, when a chunk hasn't been edited, like when a player hasn't like destroyed or added a block or whatever, like when the chunk hasn't changed, there is a timer basically, and after a certain amount of time, the chunk will be considered for merging if it hasn't changed in a while. So basically, chunks that are mostly not touched by anyone in the map are going to get merged, even if they are slow to mesh, kind of. So it's a dynamic merging system. And again, I'm going to show you again after some time. Right now, I think just for debug, I set it to 10 seconds, but it will be higher in the real game. So we're going to see the merging happening very soon, because this chunk haven't been modified. Yep. So now it's merged, and it's dynamic. Obviously, like if I move, it's going to remerge stuff as it gets generated. So it's very responsive, and again, the benefits are used. Like it's reducing the amount of meshes drastically. So this in combination with LODs is super useful. All right. So enough talk about optimization. I think now I can show you maybe the multiplayer part. What would be the best way to show you that? So on the left, you have the listen server, which we are going to consider as a server right now. And just going to, so yeah, this is my server, and this is my client. So right now on the right, I have advanced the client forward. I'm going to do it again because I guess it's confusing. And so yeah, now as you can see, my client is going away from me. And so this is like the listen server, and this is the client. And so the client is generating chunks on the server, but it's not, as you can see, it's not generating visible chunks. And on the client side, I mean, I haven't implemented any camera, so I can't like show you. But as you can see, as I'm moving forward, I'm generating new chunks around me, including LOD1 and merging stuff. So basically, the client generates what it needs, and the server only generates what it needs for itself. Right now, it's a listen server, so the server is also a player. So we have LODs going on, but in a dedicated server, that you will only have the blue chunks right now, without any merging or visuals or whatever, and the client one chunks in here. So yeah, it's not much like you might wonder why I'm talking about this, like it's super boring, but yeah, for me it's important to do this right now, because last time I did this like after I implemented everything, and so it was super annoying to implement on a system that I didn't think about this when doing it the first time. So anyway, I'm just to go back to my server. Yeah, so it's working. Thanks a lot for watching. Actually, no, it's not finished. I'm going to show you something else on the previous project, something that I didn't show you last time. And so last time I did show you this. This is the old project, the one from the previous version of the engine that I stopped working on. Wow, some god rays. I spawned in the cave, it looks like. Yeah, nice. Anyway, yeah, so I just, something I did not show last time, but maybe I should have. It's a nice thing. I like this generation. It's a nice thing about, you know, the scale of the blocks. So very quick, you know, in game like Minecraft, for example, I think the characters, like the player characters, are like 2 blocks high, I think, roughly. And, you know, this is kind of the scale of the game. And you're limited by the amount of data that you can display and generate at once, right? So you can't have like very small blocks. Like you cannot have a super detailed world with very small blocks that compose the world. So, you know, this kind of 1 block equal 1 meter roughly rule is kind of working for you know, to get enough detail and whatever. But I wanted to show you something. So now if I enter damage mode, so now I'm going to apply damage to this block, and as you can see now, you can see that the block itself is made of smaller blocks, and it's actually a cheat. Like the whole world is not made with this amount of detail. Like that will be completely unwieldy, and I mean, with our current machine powers, we can't do that. Maybe in the future, but anyway, so this is a cheat. So you know, last time I showed you how we can I have lost my designs, but you know, I showed you how you can design your own block. Just going to do it very quickly. Doesn't matter, blah blah blah. Why can't I create my block? Sorry, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. You know, but anyway, last time I showed you how you can design your own block with this designer that I failed to make work. But anyway, yeah, it's a nice cheat. So basically, what's happening is that when you apply the damage, I mean, right now it's just applying the damage, but it could be anything. Like you can, it doesn't need to be damage. But when I apply the damage, the game is actually swapping the block for a custom block that is the damage is designing in a sense. its own block. And so yeah, you can destroy the world. So it makes, I think it will make the player feels like the world is actually much more detailed than it really is. But yeah, and the block do have like collisions do work with the small blocks. As you can see when I hover over the hole that is inside this block that I just damaged. If I can show you, I can't. So you can see that it's not just visual, like it's actually working with the collision and everything. So the gameplay wise, it's still valid. Like when I say it's a cheat, it's a cheat. It's not really a cheat. It's actually working. But yeah, we don't generate all the block with this amount of detail. Obviously, most blocks are just simple blocks. It's just when you need to have more detail, basically the game is swapping for a more custom block, which is heavier. Like it's slower to mesh, obviously, because now this block kind of costs almost as much as a chunk. Not really. It's not true. It's much cheaper, but it's much more complex, obviously, than this. Anyway, yeah, that's just something I did not show last time, and since this video was poor in visuals, I say, well, maybe I can show this thing. Anyway, cool. Thanks a lot for watching this one, guys, and see you next time.